Well, there's now a nationwide push to phase out new gas-powered cars by the year 2035. Democrats introduced new legislation that would set the first federal zero-emission vehicle standard. President and CEO of the Renewable Fuels Association, Jeff Cooper, joins us now with further perspective. Thanks for joining us, Jeff. We first saw this in California. Now we're talking about this on a federal level. Bring us up to speed on the legislation and its potential threat to the nation's biofuel industry.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Christina. And you're correct. Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley and a few other Senate Democrats just this week introduced legislation that would require that 50% of new cars sold by 2025 must be electric vehicles. And that's really just 4 years away when you think about it. And then they want to get to 100% of new vehicles sold must be electric by 2035. So I think that, the good news is this bill isn't going anywhere. We're 2 weeks away from an election. We're 2 months away from a new Congress. So this bill will expire. It will die a quiet death. And Senator Merkley is really just trying to send a message here. And that message is that we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from transportation. And that, of course, is a commendable goal. And we agree we should be taking steps to reduce emissions from our vehicle fleet. But mandating electric vehicles is probably not the best way to do that.
No, it's confusing because there's an infrastructure overhaul that would have to happen. You talk about the benefits of ethanol, of biodiesel, and they are energy efficient and they're good. We know that they're good for the environment. So it's interesting that they're exploring electric, even over something like hydrogen. Why electric? Yeah. Why do you think they're going this route?
Well, I think it's just one of those things that's kind of the fad and is fashionable right now. We have seen many cases in the past where policies adopted in California or really promoted in California do tend to take hold with policymakers from other coastal states. So we do think that's what's happening. But you're right. If we really want to get serious about reducing emissions and doing it now rather than waiting until 2035, we need to be using more ethanol and we need to be using more biodiesel and renewable diesel. Ethanol is cutting emissions by 40 or 50% compared to gasoline today, and that is only going to improve in the years ahead. So that's where we should be focused in the near term and let the market decide what the best low-carbon fuel options and vehicles ought to be.
And usually that comes down to dollars and cents, feasibility as well. And so obviously a lot more scientific research has to go into this before anything is set in stone. But what is next for this bill, and what are your hopes moving forward?
Well, we do think that the bill expires at the end of the year. We're certain that something similar to this or maybe the same bill will be reintroduced in the next Congress. But, the other thing that we just really need to emphasize is that electric vehicles are not zero-emissions vehicles, and there's just no such thing. The electricity powering those vehicles comes from somewhere, and the rare minerals in those batteries comes from somewhere, too. Here in Missouri, for example, 77% of our electricity comes from coal. So my flex fuel F-150 that's running on E85 is a much lower carbon option than a Tesla that's running on coal-fired electricity. So those are the sorts of things that we need to continue to do education around and make sure our policymakers understand that.
Absolutely. If we were able to find a way to scale good, quality, clean-burning energy and then sell it to the world, we might be on our way to good economic freedom in this country. I just feel like that's something that isn't explored as often. We love the fact that you have a seat at the table. Please keep fighting for our corn producers, our biodiesel producers across the country as well, those that grow our soybeans. Renewable Fuels Association President and CEO Jeff Cooper, thank you for your time today.